You know how sometimes you just want to absorb a load of interesting stuff really fast? Especially like history and the places where it all happened?
Mhm.
Well, that's what we're doing today. A proper deep dive into historical travel, looking at some really interesting sources.
Exactly. We've got two things here. First, a LinkedIn post. It's
Hmm.
from Edward Harris. He's the CEO of Visit Williamsburg. And he's sharing this AOL article, 17 American towns that are like time travel for history nerds.
Yeah.
Catchy title.
Right.
And second, we're looking at the very first blog post from a site called Old World Voyages. It's written by Jennifer, a self-proclaimed history nerd.
Okay.
So our plan is to really unpack why this kind of travel is so appealing and maybe look at the different ways people engage with history through actual places.
Sounds good. Okay, so that AOL article that Edward Harris shared, we don't have the whole article itself, do we?
No, just the title and his comment.
But that title, 17 American towns that are like time travel for history nerds, I mean, that immediately paints a picture, doesn't it?
It really does.
And you mentioned Edward Harris. He's the Visit Williamsburg guy. So him highlighting that article, mentioning Williamsburg specifically and using the hashtag history tag, well, it tells you something about the intended experience, right? Tourism focus.
Absolutely. Harris's perspective is definitely through that tourism lens. He's pointing towards places that are um, maybe curated,
Yeah.
set up to give visitors that connection to the past.
That time travel idea, it's obviously a bit of marketing speak, but it taps into that desire people have maybe to just step out of the now for a bit.
Yeah, to immerse themselves somewhere else. It makes you think, what do those 17 towns have in common? What actually creates that feeling?
Is it just old buildings, preserved architecture, or is there more to it?
Well, probably architecture is a big part, but maybe also historical sites, museums. Sometimes they have reenactments, things like that.
Right, bringing it to life. But what's the real hook? What makes you feel like you've genuinely stepped back? Is it seeing things or knowing things happen there?
That's a great question. I think being physically in a place engages you differently than just reading about it.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes less abstract.
More tangible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tangible. You're standing where people stood hundreds of years ago. There's a power in that, isn't there? It's not just imagination anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like the visual cues, seeing the old streets or whatever, they help you imagine the lives. But then there's the story layer too.
Hmm.
Knowing, wow, this happened right here. It adds another dimension. It's like the place itself holds the memory.
Well put.
Hmm.
And maybe fulfilling that need we have for stories, for understanding where we fit in the bigger picture.
Okay, so that's one angle, the destination, the curated experience. Now, what about this blog, Old World Voyages? You said the author's approach is quite different.
Oh, very different. Jennifer, the blogger, she just comes right out. Unapologetic history nerd.
Yeah.
You feel the passion immediately. She talks about loving history and travel her whole life, preferring to go solo to focus on historical sites, and interestingly, feeling like there wasn't enough out there in the blog world specifically for history buffs.
So she saw a gap and decided to fill it herself.
Seems like it. And what really stands out is her motivation. It's not about promoting destinations in the same way as the AOL article seems to be. It's deeply personal.
Right.
She explains why she loves history. The stories, the big events, the people, the fact that there's always more to learn. And she makes that crucial point about history helping us understand now, learning lessons from the past. That feels important.
Definitely. And she sees travel as the best way to feed that history habit, even moved country for it.
Yeah, from Canada to Portugal, she says, specifically to be closer to European historical sites. That's real commitment.
Wow. Okay. So her blog is focused very specifically then.
Very historical sites, museums, old buildings, places with interesting backstories. She contrasts it explicitly with other travel styles, adventure, food, luxury, beach holidays, family trips. This is purely for the history enthusiast.
And people are responding to it. You mentioned comments.
Yeah, the post had a couple of comments praising the detail, saying it inspired them, making history feel alive. So it seems she's definitely found an audience, even early on.
Hmm.
Plus, the way she's setting up the blog, with categories like countries, periods, themes,
Mhm.
it shows she's thinking about how fellow history lovers might want to navigate it.
So we have these two perspectives. One is kind of highlighting specific destinations, maybe packaged for tourists, like in the AOL list.
Mhm.
And the other is this really personal deep dive driven by individual passion.
Exactly. One's maybe about the what's and where, the other's more about the why and how of engaging with history through travel.
It's interesting to contrast them. Does one approach offer a deeper connection than the other? Or
No.
just different?
I'd say different. The curated time travel towns might be a great entry point for someone. Spark that initial interest. Make history accessible.
Right, like an introduction.
Whereas a personal journey, like Jennifer's, that might resonate more with people who already have that passion. It offers maybe a more nuanced, self-directed way of exploring. It models a way of being a historical traveler.
So it makes you think about your own reasons for visiting a historical place. Are you looking for the story presented to you, or are you on more of a personal quest?
Yeah, and maybe it's not always one or the other. Sometimes you want the structured tour. Other times you want to just wander and see what you find, what speaks to you.
That makes sense. The common thread, though, in both sources is definitely that desire to connect with the past by actually being somewhere, physically present.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether it's a famous battlefield, a preserved town, or just an old building on a city street, place matters.
It links the abstract idea of history to something real, something you can see and walk through.
Precisely. That personal passion, like Jennifer's, it often drives people to look beyond the obvious, doesn't it? To dig for the stories that aren't always on the main placard. It's about understanding context.
So, pulling it all together, we see these varied ways people connect with history through travel. You've got the highlighted destinations potentially offering a more structured experience.
Hmm.
And then you have these personal explorations driven by this deep, intrinsic love for the stories and lessons of the past.
And both are valid ways to engage.
Mm.
For you listening, wanting that quick but thorough understanding, exploring historical travel offers so much. You can learn about specific places, but also about how we connect with history itself.
Yeah, the designated towns give you one perspective, the personal blogs another. It shows the richness of it all.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Hmm.
What kind of historical place genuinely sparks your curiosity? Is it a grand castle, a specific battlefield, an old neighborhood, maybe something else entirely?
And what are you hoping to find or feel when you get there? Is it about facts, atmosphere, personal connection? Thinking about your own time travel hopes might just point you towards your next adventure in history.